Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
He told me that if I wasn't wearing a mask, they would call me over again and give me a second fine of $6,000. I did have my scarf on over my nose for a little bit that second time, trying to avoid trouble. But evidently that wasn't to their liking. I was told it was slipping. It wasn't on the right way. Might have adjusted it a few times, but yeah, they didn't like that. So within 5 minutes, they were on me again, and the same thing happened, except this time it was $6,000.
For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini, once again bringing you a Fight the Fines case. I'm joined with Nick Thibault, who was fined on December 20th for protesting or demonstrating out front of Premier Legault's office. Nick, you were fined $1,500 that day. Can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, I arrived at the protest a bit early before the march started. Some people were hanging out in front of the Premier Legault's office. Many of them were not wearing masks, and from what I heard, many of them had already been fined. I disagree with the mandatory mask laws, and so I also wasn't wearing one. A few minutes after arriving, the cops came over to me and said, "Can you please follow us to the other side of the street?" I did. The whole interaction was very polite. I was asked why I didn't have a mask on. I told them that I disagreed with that rule, especially for being outside. And so I was given a fine of $1,000 plus fees, so about $1,500.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your ticket was a bit differently laid out with that $1,000 and then two other additional charges. And you told me off camera that you were actually threatened a second time by police with a $6,000 fine. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, I did tell them that I was going to go right back over there, and he told me that if I wasn't wearing a mask, they would call me over again and give me a second fine of $6,000. I did have my scarf on over my nose for a little bit that second time, trying to avoid trouble. But evidently that wasn't to their liking. I was told it was slipping. It wasn't on the right way. Might have adjusted it a few times, but yeah, they didn't like that. So within 5 minutes, they were on me again, and the same thing happened, except this time it was $6,000. I was told it would arrive in the mail, but that was over a month ago, and still nothing. So.
Mm-hmm. And since that time, you have pleaded not guilty to the original fine that you received for $1,500. Have you heard anything back from the court?
Not yet. That was also a month ago. I sent it back a few days after getting it. Still haven't heard anything.
Hmm. Uh, it
And
seems
by the way, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I don't plan on paying either of them. So it wouldn't
right.
bother me even if it was written $50,000 on them. I'm not going to pay them, so it's all the same to me.
Mm-hmm. And you were there. I mean, what brought you out to Premier Legault's house that day?
It was a protest against mandatory masking, um, and the oppressive nature of all the COVID laws. We've been protesting since last summer, early summer, and I've never been sick from it. I think the whole thing is very overblown, and it doesn't justify taking away the rights of people, the
And
rights of the Canadian people.
it seems a little bit ironic that you would be ticketed for not wearing a mask when you're protesting the mask mandate.
I know. I think they're picking on that protest. They were picking on us specifically because you see crowds of people going, playing outside on Mount Royal the following weekend, and none of them were harassed like we were. So I think it's a political harassment.
And thus far seems like some empty threats, since you haven't heard anything from the courts and you have yet to receive your second $6,000 infraction. What about what was happening to the other people at the protest that day? Were there other tickets being issued? Did you happen to notice?
Much the same as me. Yeah, they were taking to the other side of the street. They were given the warning. Many people got tickets. I heard that on that day, about 200 people received a ticket. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the march, there was also a lot of fines being handed. So we all gathered in the park at the end, and they were taking people from the crowd one by one and giving them tickets.
You came into our campaign at fightthefines.com. What would you have done if you didn't have our crowdfunding assistance to push back and fight your fines?
So far, probably the same. I would have checked not guilty on the back of the ticket, sent it back. But I'm very grateful of having been put in contact with a lawyer. So a big thank you to Rebel News for that. Mm-hmm. From now, we'll wait and see what happens. But if I'm made to go to court, I plan to follow the process with that.
Mm-hmm. Will these fines deter you from going out and protesting to make your stance heard that you don't agree with what the government is doing?
No, absolutely not. It's guaranteed by the Charter of Rights, and I will continue to do it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Do you have a message for the police that were there that day or moving forward into the future when you continue to demonstrate peacefully?
Yeah, we are peaceful, and I think that what you're doing is shameful. You will be remembered in history the same way that some very bad people were a couple decades ago. So I hope you're proud of yourself, and I hope your children are proud of you.
And maybe if Premier Legault didn't hear your message that day on December 20th when you were ticketed for protesting, do you have a message for him?
You have no right to restrict my breathing.
Very short and sweet. Thank you for joining me, Nick. Keep in touch. We'll see, if you end up getting your $6,000 threat mailed to you, please let me know. And we'll see if the follow-up of your pleading not guilty to your other fine for $1,500 holds any merit or constitutionality when and if your day in court comes. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. Here at Rebel News, we get results. Look at what happened in Alberta with Sheila eating her way to freedom. She covered so many restaurants reopening in defiance of the government-ordered closures that Jason Kenney announced he would reopen restaurants and gyms just a few days later. If you want to support the work that we do to ensure that everyone can get back to work, please consider donating what you can to our crowdfunding campaign at fightthefines.com.